This is the assignment walkthrough for Assignment 2, Fall 2014 Linux Administration. Let's go to question number 1. Create a command that will find all regular files under the Documents directory that have a .doc extension. Note, I don't want directories that show up for this question or any of the subsequent searches, just regular files. Okay? So let's see if we have a Documents directory. We don't here. You probably do on yours, but just if I don't have a Documents directly, let me go ahead and create one. We'll solve this problem. And we can go to the Documents directory. And we want some files with a doc extension. So if we want to check what we're doing, we want to have some positive instances, and we also want some negative instances, so we'll see if our command works. So let's create some files. And so we have some files that end in doc, and we have some files that end in stuff other than doc. Excuse me. Let's go back to our home directory, and so we want to find those files. So find, and we want to find files starting in the Documents directory, and type regular file whose name ends with .doc. See if that works. There we go. So it found the two files. It didn't find the other ones that had a text extension. Number 2, create a command that will do a case-insensitive search for all regular files under var log whose name contains log. Okay? So do we have some files under var log? Yes, we do. So it's a case-insensitive search. And so I would run this with sudo. Actually, I don't think you have to in this case. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Because since these files and directories are owned by root, you might be stopped from searching some of the directories, running as a regular user. So sudo find var log and type file, and a case-insensitive search. I'm going to find log. So it has log somewhere in its name. So the asterisks are wildcards, so if it has log, it should find that file. And you see that went off the page really quickly. Let's go ahead and rerun that with less. Here we go. So we look and see, does every file in there have log in its name? Yes. So that's the answer to that question. Number 3, create a command that searches for all regular files under documents that are greater than 10K. Okay, now we're looking for different criteria by size. So under the documents that are greater than 10K, so we don't have anything under there that's greater than 10K, do we? Okay. Well, I can create one. This is a little bit of magic right here. I'll explain what I'm doing in just a second. So, and we'll make a pretty big file. So, dd is a command that's in every version of Linux and Unix that reads and writes bits. It takes as a source an input file. See the if dev0 there? It just says, hey, give me a bunch of zeros. The OF is the output file, so it's going to create a file called big file that contains just zeros. The size of the file is determined by the block size and the count. So if you multiply I think that's 10,000 times 1024, that will be the size of the file. It's just a bunch of zeros. And that's how quickly it works. Is that bigger than 10K? Yes, it is. If you want to look at that file, whoops, we don't want to look at it with less, we want to look at it with xxd. Big file less, and it's just a bunch of zeros. Okay, so now we've got one file in there that's greater than 10K. So File, in Documents. Whoops. That's the absolute path, by the way. This is relative path. Type File and Size plus 10K. And there it is. How would you do that in Windows that quickly? You wouldn't. Number 4, create a command that searches for all regular files under the home directory whose last modified time is less than 40 minutes ago. And so, if we look at what we've already got in the directories, we've got a bunch of files in here, some of which are more than 40 minutes ago and some of which are less than. I said less than, right? So we're going to run find, starting here, type file, and we want the modified time, M, minutes, less than 40 minutes. If I wanted the access time, it would be AMIN. If I wanted the created time, it would be CMIN. Let's see what it comes up with. Well, looky there. And we know that's true, right? Because we just created those 1doc, 2doc, and big file files. And so those are the last modified times for those. So that worked. Notice I'm checking my work here. Create a command that finds empty files under root. That was succinct. Okay. All right, so how am I going to do that? So root is, and everything underneath is going to be owned by root, right? So you want to write sudo under root, type F, and empty, or let me just put this in parentheses if I wanted to do size equals 0. You could do that. Empty is easier. Let's see what it finds. And there's a lot of them. How could I test that out? Well, you make sure that you've created a document. Oh, in fact, right here, you know it's 0 size, because notice how it found these under the student directory, which is the directory under which I'm working the account, that is. So we know those were 0. Good. Number 6, I have 3 files in the home directory that end in log that I want to compress with gzip. Create that command. Okay, do we have any of those? No. Okay, so let's create some. Touch. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I want to gzip them. Oh, what am I doing here? They end in log. So move 1 to 1 log. Move 2 to 2 log. Move 3 to 3 log. And we've got those files here. Okay, so if I want to compress those, I didn't say I wanted them in a single file, I just said I wanted to compress them. And if you didn't, so there's various answers to this question, but just if you wanted to do this, this is really simple to do. Star log, let's see what that does. And you see that the 3 files are zipped, and it's gzipped. Notice the sizes, the 27, 29, and 27 right here. Isn't that kind of interesting? Because they were 0-byte files, but there's some overhead involved in gzipping them. If you want to look at what the overhead is, because zipping is supposed to compress them, right? So just look at it with XXD. So notice that even though the content is 0, it actually added a little bit of information to the header of the file, which in this case is the name of the file. So you really don't gain anything by gzipping a extremely small file. Number 7. Same as number 6 above, but use bzip2 to compress. Gunzip star.gz. There they are. So bzip2 star log. And there they are. Number 8. I have a file called files.tgz and etc. Create a command that will allow me to list to lists. I should really read my questions. Actually, I did. I was probably just in a hurry. There's so many times I'm doing 4 things at once. List the contents of that file. Okay. So in etc, so we want, let's create a file here. Let's unzip 2, the bz2 files. And let's create that tar files because it was called files.tgz. So let's go ahead, tar, want to create file name and gzip it, and we'll do those log files. It could be anything, but we'll do the log files. And first we have to give it the name, files.tgz, and those are the log files. So do we have that file? Yes. So we'll copy files.tgz to etc. And so the command to list the contents of the file, if you want to search for that, go up here, notice the T or dash list right here, Q to exit, and so tar, right, dash T, and we want to give it the file name, etc files.tgz. And there it is. Number 9, I have 10,700 files in my documents directory that I want to archive into a single file and compress them using bzip2. I want the file to be named 10,700.tar.bz2. Create that command. Okay, so I'm sorry, that was in what directory? In the documents directory. So let's go to documents. I think I only have those files in here. So that whole thing about 10,700 really doesn't really make a difference here. It's just the name that we're concerned with. So if we're doing this from our home directory, we can do tar and C. We can do verify if we want. bzip2 is J, and the file name is 10,700, if I can type, .tar.bz2, and we'll give it the documents directory. And do we have that file? There it is right there. 10700.tar.bz2. Number 10, I have a file called, interestingly enough, 10700.tar.bz2 in the home directory. I want to uncompress and unarchive the files in it. What command would I use? What command would you use? Tar and extract unbzip2 F. You can also do verify if you want. And that would do it. Number 11, I want to uncompress and unarchive the file etcgoodbye.tgz. I'm in my home directory. What single command would I use? Hint, who owns the file and directory where it's located? Okay, so goodbye.tgz. So let's create that. Let's create a file. We'll use these files right here. So tar create file in gzip, and we want it to be called goodbye.tgz, and I want it to be everything in here. Do you think that worked? Well, let's see. Let's go back here and check. Yep. Okay, so we want to copy this to goodbye tgz to Etsy, because we're gonna test out our commands. So what's going to happen when I do this? Right, permission denied. That's the reason I'm having you do this, is so hopefully you make mistakes like this so you learn, or you learned it previously. So now that should be copied to the Etsy directory. So if we want to, what are we trying to do? We're trying to uncompress and unarchive the file. So what if we just did this? Tar, see, is this going to work? Actually, this should work, come to think of it. Tar, extract, file name, unzip it, and Etsy goodbye.tgz. What's going to happen? Okay, we didn't need sudo in that command, so I shouldn't even put that in there, because for some reason I was assuming that I actually created it there in the first place by root, but it was not. So actually that's the answer to the command. If you use sudo, that's fine too. Probably an inappropriate hint I gave you. Use find to create a command that would remove all empty files in var log. Who owns the directory and files therein? Well, who owns those files? ls-al var log. Whoops. Root. You see some syslog files here. Those are system logs. They're owned by the system log daemon. But root, in other words, an ordinary user doesn't own them. So we want to put some, let's go back to where we were, documents, and let's copy text to var log. Can I do that? Is that going to work? Let's see what happens. Exactly. Permission denied. Is this going to work? Yes. So that shows that they're there. We want to remove the empty files, and so there's a couple of ways to do this. Let's clear the screen. Sudo, we want to find var log, type file, empty, and then you could do delete, or you could do execute rm. And let's scroll back up and see if we can find those files. No such doc. No such file. So empty finds whether they're empty, and then we can execute the rm command on everything that meets the criteria listed before. "13. I want to create a file that contains a list of all the directories and files under var log, and I want to name it allmyfiles.txt. What command would I run?" Okay, so let's clear that. And a couple of ways to do this. One, if we're just using the find command. Let me show you the easier command. Since it's owned, let's just do this. ls-ar var log. Let's see what happens. Does that give me everything? Notice there's some permissions denied here. So we might want to run that as what? Sudo. So the way I would do this is ls-al-r for recursive var log, and we want to put that into a file called allmyfiles.txt. And we can look at that file, and there they are. Another way to do this is sudo find var logged, and if we do this, it's just going to type the files. If we do this, just the directories. If we do this, it's going to find the files and the directories. So we'll keep it at that. And we'll call this all my files 2. This is just showing you a different way to do this. And let's just see the difference in output. All my files 2. So that also gives you the list, and it shows you the directories as well. You may prefer the formatting of one or the other. I really didn't specify it there. 14, I have a file containing 200,000 IP addresses that I want listed in numerical order. The original name of the file is 1, and I want a new file sorted numerically called sorted 1. What command would I use? Okay, IP addresses. So how do we get IP addresses? Let's go in, let's create a file called 1. 1.1.1.1, 10.10.10.10, 123.34.23.12, and let's do one more, 3.3.3.3. Here we go. Let's write that out. Let's exit. Okay, so I want to sort that numerically. So if I look at sort, let's search for numeric. And do I see any here? See anything that fits the description that I need? Here's numeric sort -n. Compare according to string numerical value. General numeric value. Let's see if -n works. So sort -n1 greater than sorted 1 less sorted 1. By Jove, I think that worked. Number 15, I have 600 files under documents ending in the extension .text. I want to create a single bzip2 compressed file containing these files. What command would I use? Okay, so under here, so right now I've got how many text files? I've got oops, 1.1.text. I'm just going to move a couple of other files. So okay, so we've got 4 files. We don't have 600, but okay. Notice I didn't give a file name in there, so you can name it anything you want. So we can do tar create. We want bzip2, which is J. We got to give it the file name, and we're going to call this myfiles.tbz2 or tar.bz2. Either one doesn't really matter. And they're in my document. Oh, they're in the documents directory. I've already gone this far. Okay. Shoot, so let's move the star.txt to the documents directory. No, go back and redo it. Create bzip2 file name and myfiles.tbz2 and documents and star.txt myfiles.tbz2. Number 16, what command would I use to update my current date and time so it is in sync with the NTP server that you see on the screen? Okay, I talked to you about this before. NTP date. Let's clear this. Sudo NTP date 0.centos.poolntp.org. Let's see. See if this works. Okay, so it updated the time. Good. Really easy. 17, I have a text file called bigfile.txt, and I want to view the first 117 lines. What command would I use? We do have one big file in here. But they're all binary. So let me just type out what we've got. Head-n117 bigfile.txt. The next question is looking at the last 17 lines rather, bigfile.txt. So I gave you some really easy ones at the end. I want to install the application Pico on Linux. Use the man page of the appropriate command to determine how to do this. Okay, pretty easy. I think we've looked at aptitude install before, and if not, if you looked at aptitude, no, I know I've shown it somewhere in the videos, but to install, so sudo aptitude install Pico. Let's see what happens. Okay, no candidate version for Pico. Trust me, it's in there. It's actually also named Nano, so Pico or Nano. I think I told you that there are two standard text editors that come with any version of Linux or Unix. One of which is VI, or Vim is the full-scale, big, nice version, but VI will come with it. And you've probably seen me use it in some of the earlier videos. Or the Nano that you see here, which is also known known as Pico. Number 20. I have a file called zippity-doo-dah-zip. I want to uncompress the command. What would I use? Unzip zippity-doo-dah-zip. Let's create that file. Let's use the all my files stuff, so zip, and we want to call it zippity-doo-dah.zip, and it'll be all. Okay, so do we have the file? There's zippity-doo-dah. Let's copy that to the parent directory, and then we'll unzip zippity-doo-dah. And there are the files. Okay, that ends this walkthrough for assignment 2. If you follow along and see how I go about solving the problems, I gave you everything you need to answer the questions in the video lectures. And if it's not there, then I'm probably hinting that you should use the man page. And hopefully you do well in this assignment.